Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Probably Cancelled podcast. My name is Bridget, and I'm your host. And today I'm here with a very special guest. It is my own mother, Claire. How are you doing today, Mama?
Hey, honey. I'm good. I'm good. I can't believe we're finally doing this.
I know, I kind of roped my mom into recording an episode with me because probably my whole life we've butt heads quite a bit when it comes to politics since I was probably 13 years old. And I, growing up as a teenager, was a left libertarian, and you're a right libertarian. Is that how you would describe your politics?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we had that. My rebellion was kind of to go to the left version of libertarianism. Um, but since then, our politics have evolved quite a bit on both our sides.
We've gone like this.
Yeah. Your video froze a little bit, but for anyone who might not have been able to see that, she made a circle. Like we've really come full circle. And I'm a communist today, an anti-imperialist today, and you're still a libertarian, right?
Uh, n- well, I don't really like that word because I feel like libertarian can be kind of a cop out not to commit to anything. Just that word. So I would say I'm a conservative,
Okay, conservative. That's
leaning on
fair. So
libertarian,
that's
but
fair.
not
Yeah,
a hardcore libertarian.
right. And so your views have changed a lot since I was growing up, and my views have changed a lot. And we actually have come to agree on a lot of things. And I
Yeah.
find that really interesting. So I kind of wanted to do a whole episode on that, on the common ground that we could
Oh,
possibly find.
definitely. I'm so relieved that we do share our common, like our core values. Um, I really wasn't expecting that in the long run at a certain point, raising you. Um, but it's kind of my fault. I raised you to be, um, what's the word? Autonomous. It was really important to me that you were autonomous.
Yeah, you did. No, you did, and I really appreciate that because you protected me from a lot of things that were harmful. Like we didn't have cable TV growing up, and that was a net good. Even though at the time I didn't understand why, and I didn't understand my peers culturally or anything because I didn't have MTV or VH1 or didn't see the movies they were watching.
Yeah.
In the long run, as an adult, I'm really glad that you did things like that. But at the same time, I also had a lot of freedom to be who I wanted to be and believe what I wanted to believe, which I think a lot of kids are not afforded the opportunity. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
Um,
just to get started, I want to ask you about your upbringing and what it was like to grow up in the 60s and 70s, politically speaking, from your experience.
Politically speaking, growing up, for me, I was kind of oblivious to politics. It wasn't really anything I really thought about. Um, I believed, you know, the news. I had no reason to doubt, to think that my government was doing anything nefarious. I had no reason to even ever think that. Um, it was like ignorant bliss.
Hmm. That sounds pretty
So,
nice.
yeah, it was great. I mean, we learned a lot about history in school. My parents took us, um, to see all the historic places growing up. And um, politically, though, I don't really. All I knew was my parents were Republican,
Hmm.
and that's all I knew.
Hmm.
So,
And they're Catholic. You grew up Catholic, and your parents were really, really ardently Catholic and pro life. So I'm sure that also informed their political leanings as well. And how did you come into political consciousness? At what age or what era was that?
Hmm. I confess that I just never really paid attention to politics. My dad, he was always, fretting about the news and getting stressed out, watching the news and what the government was doing. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, don't just enjoy your life and don't worry about all that stuff because I felt like I don't have control over that anyway. So
Hmm.
I never really thought that much. I wasn't really ever political, ever. All I knew was I was a conservative person, and so therefore I voted conservatively. And I um, recently got political, probably in, I'd like to say about 2010. So I was pretty old when I really got more interested in politics. Besides local politics, I mean, I was, interested in school board and things like that as a younger
Hmm.
person. But the national
Yeah.
politics wasn't really a thing for me.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up in the post 9/11 era, you were supportive of George W. Bush, right?
I
And
was,
Dick Cheney. Yeah. Yeah, and that's also what part of what we butt heads over quite a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
was the
definitely.
neocon
You were
stuff.
like, hey, mom, this is going on and that's going on, and I'm like, what? No, are you kidding? They would never do that. And uh, you're like, no, mom, this is really what's happening, and I'm like, you're crazy.
Oh my god. Maybe that's part of my like trauma to try to prove myself to the world by having a podcast like this is
So
because
I,
I
I
need
was
somebody to
just like, what
listen.
are you talking about? But now I'm like, oh my God, my daughter is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So they were lying. There's so much corruption, and we didn't grow up thinking about that at all. My generation, no.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like whatever was in the news is
Yeah,
just
we
default. You believe it.
we believed it. We were innocent. We uh, had no reason to um, doubt that our taxes were going to good use, and happily paying our federal taxes, um, and trusting that they were going to be spent properly.
Right.
Um,
Right. And then so you became more politically conscious around 2010, and then 2015 you supported Trump, and you still support Trump, right?
I did. I really did. And I still really do. He's not a perfect person. Um, but, and I have to trust somebody. I mean, I, I don't, I have to trust somebody. So I'm going to trust the guy who could be out on his yacht in the middle of nowhere drinking champagne. Not that he ever drank, but just enjoying his family and his life and having a very cushy, comfortable time with the last few years of his life. And he's not doing that. I mean, who would ever ask for all this? This is dangerous stuff he's doing. So
Yeah.
I trust him more than I would trust anybody else, really.
Yeah, and you're so what attracted you to his message? Was it that he wanted to drain the swamp and essentially reform the government and
Yeah, oh,
clean it out of its
absolutely.
corruption?
Absolutely. Let's just do a major financial audit on the government, get rid of all of the extraneous government admin. It's so wasteful. I mean, in the government, you fail your way up. If you're a yes man and you have a pulse, then you can be a government employee. No offense to anybody out there, but sort of. But and all the cushy pensions, they can do anything they want. They don't even have to perform like in the private sector. You have to do a good job. But they're just collecting a paycheck and they don't really care. So
Yeah. And so, in comparison, what do the Democrats represent to you in today's day and age?
Okay, well, I'm not going to be very nice about it, but I really think that at this point, anyone who's a Democrat, I really do believe either is very, very low IQ, um, or mentally ill, um, and just not a stable person. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but how does anybody justify all the BS, all the stupid stuff that they're making up where we have really big problems? They are the problem. They're the problem. So, sorry, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're still victim to the same thing that your
that I
generation was
was,
your entire childhood,
yeah,
where it's really a media propaganda game and they're really beholden to the media,
yeah.
and
But I
they
mean,
really just aren't
there's no
questioning
excuse for
anything.
that anymore because there's so many um, different messengers now. Um,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of different
Yeah.
messengers.
Yeah, I think they really, I mean, the propaganda is strong and it's designed to keep us divided as well with like I mean there's fake shit on both sides too. And
That's true. I mean, half the time I don't really cling on to a belief one way or another because I don't. One thing I know is I don't know. I don't know the truth.
yeah. And then the MAGA contingent within the conservative side of mainstream politics is really a minority of the Republicans in office in the
Oh,
Senate or Congress, for example. They're like a fringe minority of the group and struggling to have more control, I think. But I think a lot of people see the establishment Republicans and also really don't trust them as well. And I think that's totally warranted. You
right.
know,
I
it's kind of
mean,
like two of the same bird.
yes, yes, yeah. It's all just a show, and it's all fake, and they do not have the power over us that we are allowing them to pretend that they have.
Hmm.
So if we stop following them, they can't lead us.
Right. Yeah. Do you have, I mean, it would be fun to talk more about criticisms of Democrats, but I think it's already kind of implied. Uh, do you have criticisms of the Republicans in power currently?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I mean, the warmongering is just despicable. I don't understand that. I don't understand it at all. Um, Most of us conservatives do not want any war, period. And of course,
Yep.
we don't want our hard earned taxpayer dollars to support war. But those are the money makers for the politicians
Right.
and
They're
the
kind of all
powers.
beholden to the military.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not, I mean, we need a strong military, just like a man should be dangerous or a person should be dangerous. It's good to be dangerous. It's uh but not to use that only if you really necessarily have to. So we need a strong military. We really do. But these wars are not, this is not what our military is for. And
Yeah.
my taxpayer dollars should not be going to killing people, period.
Yep. Agreed. I totally agree. And it's
It's-
really really crazy. Since I mean, we saw this in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the quote unquote war against terror. Now we have the war in Ukraine and the war that Israel is conducting. It's all heinously unnecessary. and a total waste of our tax dollars. And our cities are in complete disrepair because none of our money is going towards helping us at all. It's just
No, it's
going
not.
towards slaughtering other people. And both parties are completely beholden to that. And it's interesting, though, that there's only a minority of Republican politicians who are opposing the war in Ukraine. The rest of everybody, Democrats and Republicans, are all for it. And I wish I could see the same for Israel, what Israel's doing, and their slaughter of the people in Palestine. That's what I don't really understand is why. I mean, there's obviously a lot of Republicans that are against Israel, but a lot of really warmongering MAGA people. It's fucking crazy to see. I don't understand. I do
What?
not
You think
understand
MAGA? Do you think there are warmongering MAGA people?
with Israel and Palestine, yes, because
But
I
I
think
don't.
that a lot of people are still stuck on the whole war against terror mentality of the 2000s, and they view the Palestinians as terrorists or something.
Well, MAGA people are terrorists too, aren't we?
According to the establishment government, who won't stop talking about January 6th. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of MAGA people who are really keen on any war, Israel, any war.
I wish Trump would oppose Israel, but he's really locked in with
He is
Israel's
locked in.
interests. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, he is locked in. But I think that if he were in office, we wouldn't be having this. It wouldn't
It's
continue
possible. I
this.
mean, that's what
It
he
wouldn't be
says.
continuing this way.
That's what he says.
Uh,
Because I mean, especially the issue of Palestine should not be a partisan. It should not be a left-right issue at
no, it's
all.
no, it's not.
Yeah, and our money is going towards slaughtering thousands of children. It's crazy. So another thing, I've asked you this before, but do you think MAGA is kind of dead?
No. I think that MAGA has become a little looser of a term now, and it's
Mm-hmm.
including a lot more. Uh, it's becoming more and more inclusive of different ideas. Take RFK, for example. We love this. We want smaller government. We want government out of our bodies, out of our food, out of our water, out of our health, out of our pharmaceuticals. We don't want it. We don't want the poison. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us, we just don't want that. I mean, that's a big, big thing for us. We want health and we want clean water, clean air, clean food, um, the basic things that we all deserve. And then as far as the healthcare industry, this so much I can't even don't even get me started on the healthcare industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. It's disgusting what's happened. Who trusts a doctor now? Who will trust any doctors now at this point after what's been done? What's been going on? And then you've got the pharmaceutical companies, and they just want to keep us all sick. They
Yeah.
want us to be lifelong customers.
Yep.
And part of that is by ruining our food and our water and our air.
Right. It's crazy how the liberals are in lockstep with big pharma and the military industrial complex. And when I was growing up, and when you were growing up, the anti-war people and the people who were against the pharmaceutical industry and against the pollution of our water and all this stuff was the left.
I
It
know.
was the left who were considered anti-establishment, and now, I mean, the
They're the
powers that be
opposite.
have manipulated it to where everything is totally swapped again.
They're the opposite.
And
They're everything that they say that they hate is what they are. Sorry, I'm not trying
Yeah.
to be I don't want to be a hateful person. It's just I don't. I'm usually a very nice, kind, accepting human being, but I don't have. I don't know if it's my old age or what, but I just don't have the patience anymore. And if I don't
Mhm.
respect somebody, like I'm thinking about friends, if I don't respect them, I just don't want to waste my time and energy on them.
Yeah, and I mean the brainwashing is really kind of nuts because they look at somebody like RFK who has always been a liberal in like the classical sense of the term, and now, I mean, New York Times, NPR, everything is just hit
They're
piece after hit
demonizing
piece
him
against
now.
him. Yeah,
Anytime
it's
they
crazy, and
demonize
they call him like
somebody,
alt right.
yeah, yeah. Anytime somebody's being demonized, you know that they are on the right path. The people being demonized are the ones speaking truth.
Typically,
Um,
I mean, and let's not even
People
get
get
started on
arrested
Mao
at
and
school
Stalin.
board meetings, or people get arrested at town hall meetings, or just speaking the truth. They get kicked out of the meetings for speaking
Yeah,
truth.
yeah, yeah. It's so crazy entrenched, and
But
um,
ultimately, what a lot of MAGA people feel are that um, we are individual beings who have rights that are given to us by God, by birth. These are our birthrights, and they're not supposed to be given to us by the government. The government is here to protect our God given rights. And we're tired of them meddling in our lives. And
mhm,
we have to take the power away from them.
mhm,
They sh- we We've been fooled this whole time. You get a social
mhm,
security number, which just enslaves you for the rest of your life. You're a slave. Uh, Paying taxes so that they can turn around and take that money to hurt you. That
mhm.
shouldn't be that way. That's not the way God intends our lives to be. There is an abundance here. We have abundance in the world.
Right.
Nobody should be
Yeah.
starving.
Right. Yeah. It's
Nobody.
it's it's totally by design because there's no limits to growth.
Yeah.
There really is not, and we should all be able to have a nice society, and our society is just being intentionally degraded. I think it's completely intentional that we're being
Oh, it's
demoralized
completely intentional because they
because
want
that
to
keeps us
have
down.
control over the plebes. All of us
Yeah.
just staring at our phones and taking
Yeah.
antidepressants and smoking
Yeah.
pot and just not paying attention to the world outside, just being
Yeah.
pacified.
Yep, and we'll never
They want
overthrow
us to be
them.
placated and entertained, like, football games and all this Hollywood BS. Um, they're just trying to keep us distracted from what they're doing.
Yep. Distracted and divided with
Distracted,
all the rhetoric.
divided,
Right.
demoralized.
Yeah. And I mean, they're like, oh, Kamala's a communist. And then on the other side, they're like, Trump is a fascist. Neither statement is true in the
Well, I
slightest.
think that the thing is that these days definitions are always
Don't matter.
changing. And so what one person's definition of fascism or communism is different than somebody else's. We're all talking about something different because in
Well,
our
it's like when you
mind,
start saying everything I don't like is fascism, then actual fascism cannot ever be identified when it does appear, and the word loses its meaning completely. And the opposite is true as well. If you start calling everything communist that's not, then nobody even knows what communism actually is. Nobody's read anything of communist
right.
theory at all.
It's
Nobody
like
knows
the
about
word
history.
democracy is like, oh, he's a threat to our democracy. Threat to our
Oh my god.
democracy. Threat to our democracy. What does
Yeah.
that mean? What
It
does that
means
mean?
that they're planning a coup. Usually they're like, "Oh, we have to bring democracy to this region, so we're going to go bomb them until they agree to our version of what we want them to do." It's just, yeah, that word means nothing anymore.
So, yeah, I mean, when you were growing up, you would do all this research, always researching everything, ever since you were very small. Research, research, research on everything. And I could never win an argument with you. I was sure you were going to be an attorney.
High stakes. High
Well,
stakes.
because I could
Yeah,
never, there, you always had the logic behind your statements.
somewhat. I mean, I was an anarchist for way too long.
Well,
I got lost.
that's true. That's true. But
I got really overtaken by my emotions for a long time, and that's like not how the world works.
right. And I think a lot of that changed right around like hardcore changed probably. When did that change for you?
2020.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a rude awakening. I mean, we've all been, well, hopefully, well, most of us, many of us have been awakened, um,
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. And I think that now it's impossible not to see all of us what's happening, no matter what our leanings are. And so I'm hopeful that we won't have this Republican, Democrat, left, right thing anymore. I'm hoping it's morphing into something where we're really implementing what our founding fathers intended, because that was all hijacked and corrupted.
Yeah, I mean, things definitely are morphing, and a
They are
lot is
morphing.
being
And I
revealed.
mean, all over the world, though, all over the world, people are awakening. Um,
Yeah,
and so that's kind of cool. It's all happening at the same time, because something's got to change. We can't go on like this. We're just self destructive at this point.
yeah.
And we can't let
We
these,
really do. We need to unite.
we do need to unite.
Yeah,
Um, and we have to stop meddling in each other's lives. And the government needs to stay out of most everything.
yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
speaking of
look,
that,
we
so
give so much money to the Department of Education, and our education system is the worst. The kids are illiterate. They are
yeah,
graduating high school illiterate.
yeah, they are.
Now, why are we paying the Department of Education for illiteracy? Why? And then they say they need more money? No, I don't think so. No, we don't need them. We need local education, but not this government, not this big government crap, because big government is not efficient. It's
Well,
just not.
whatever they're
It's
doing
wasteful.
is not working, especially after 2020 is just really, really falling apart. But I think that there are other interests at hand regarding the technological sphere. I think that since 2020, there's been a huge push to make education online, online classes, at least starting at high school age. And there is big money really trying to push their software and push their products basically into schools and make schools like remote learning centers where every kid goes into an auditorium and then takes their classes separately from one another on a computer at the same time together. And
Why don't
it,
they
there's
just stay home and do it at home?
for data collection because the parents need to work, so they have to put their kids somewhere. And then there will be somewhat oversight that the kids are at the computers, but
So how
they want
about
it. I mean,
this?
we're just data collecting. They just want our data,
So
and
they
I
can
think
sell
that they're
us stuff.
yeah,
So
and also just manipulate us more.
how's this for an idea? We get the economy straightened out. We uh we get the economy straightened out so that a one income household can survive, so that either the one parent can work and one parent can afford to stay home and take care of the children and school the children.
Yeah, well, what if, for example, instead of foreign wars, our tax dollars were put towards like, well, if we were taxed less, then one parent could stay home.
Exactly.
Like if we
Exactly.
were just taxed less, then one parent could stay home. And
Yeah.
that brings me to what I want to talk with you about next. And we touched on it a little bit, but what is your explicit position on American foreign policy? And what do you think about countries such as Russia and China, or North Korea, for example? Do you respect their sovereignty as nations? And like, what do you think? Because
Oh,
the
I
right wing
do. I
loves to fearmonger in their own ways, and it's really horrifying how the liberals have their Russia, 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 and then the conservatives have their China, China, China. And a lot of
well,
people who consider themselves awakened to the propaganda cannot see through the propaganda that they're being sold on a
there
daily
are a
basis from
lot of
their
us.
influencers.
There are a lot of us, well, me included. I How do I feel about Russia, China, Iran, other countries? First of all, I respect their sovereignty just like I respect your sovereignty as a an individual human being. So the when I think about Russia, China, Iran, I think about the people of the countries. They're just like me. And they
Yeah,
have and their leaders have a right to, if I mean, if they have a right to govern them in a way that the people choose to be governed. That's
right.
not my business. It's none of our, the United States government needs to stay out of it.
So do you support NATO?
No, not at all.
That's great to hear.
A lot of us don't. A lot of us don't trust
I know.
NATO. We don't agree with it.
Yeah,
You can hear people go, "Oh, China," talk about China, but they're not um they don't have hostility towards them. They have every right to succeed, just like the United States has a right to succeed as a country. I don't have any hostility towards Russia, China, Iran. No hostility. I have nothing personal with them. It's nothing, it's not my business. So, I mean, if they start getting up in my grill, then I'm going to defend myself. But until then, I'll, I, I have to respect them.
right. Yeah, and the State Department just allotted some number of billions of dollars to be funneled towards independent media outlets that are anti-China, and they're giving more money to these independent media outlets, quote unquote, to increase the level of production of anti-China propaganda within the United States. That was just in the news earlier this week, and I mean it's really blatantly apparent what's going on,
Do you
and
do you
that
know
brings yeah,
Obama is the one who he made it legal for the media to do propaganda for the government. He changed some law so the media could do propaganda for the government, which that was against
they
the law
already were
before.
doing. I guess I mean they were always doing it, but he just I guess codified it into law. What a good guy.
Just blatant. It's just so blatant. It's so blatant. It's like, oh, disinformation. We're the disinformation board of the government. Oh, we're going to decide what's true and what's not true. We're going to tell
Of
you
the CIA.
what to believe. Oh, okay.
It's
Can you
crazy.
even believe they formed some kind of a, what was that called? The disinformation. Joe
Oh yeah, yeah.
Biden's
I don't remember the name.
admin did with that woman who was like singing Mary
Yep.
Poppins or something. Oh my gosh, these
Yeah.
people are the worst.
Well, CNN is publishing a hit piece of long form video hit piece against Jackson Hinkle tonight. So we'll
Well,
see
you
what they
know
said about
why?
him.
Because Jackson is on target. And the more they vilify him, the more it makes me sure that he is right.
Right. It's crazy. Okay, so and you found Jackson Hinkle on your
On
own.
my own, I found it. I found him
Yeah.
on my own. And I think I sent you something, and you're like, you watch Jackson? You listen to Jackson? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that was surprising, especially because he is a communist. What do you think about him being a communist?
I mean, I don't know. I think he's a smart, very intelligent, insightful person. Um, I, I, I trust him. I don't know what to think about him being a communist. I have a strong, visceral reaction to that word because that's how I was raised. Um,
Yeah,
it's kind of like the word Democrat. It's kind of like, when you're
triggering.
raised, like you say, the last one in the car is a Democrat. You're raised kind of like, you say that to the kids, or it'd be the same thing. It's like you have this visceral reaction to the word. So I don't know. I like Jackson. The fact that he's a communist really doesn't make me like or dislike him. I trust him.
Hmm.
I think he's an intelligent person. I think he's a lot smarter than I am. I think he's a lot more informed than I am. So there's no reason for me not to uh, take his take him. Um, I value his opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, and a lot of people share that sentiment as well. I know he has a lot of viewership on, I
On
mean, all sides
Rumble,
of the spectrum.
probably
Yeah,
on
and all
Rumble.
over the world, all over the world. People watch his stuff all over the
Hmm.
world in South America, Africa, Russia, China. He has viewership everywhere, and
Well,
everybody
he's a
really
lot more thoughtful than most of us, and
he's
he does
young
his.
too. It's crazy how
He
young he
brings the
is.
receipts. He's got backup for what he's saying. He's not just emoting.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not clickbait stuff. It's just straight
mhm.
information,
Yeah, and I mean,
which
I'm
is
all for
good.
truth.
Yeah, and he's going all over the world, essentially doing his own version of peace talks between the United States and these other countries that are considered our adversaries, which they are not even our adversaries. It's just that the United States military industrial complex is adversarial against these countries. And Jackson's going abroad and having meetings with these governments and saying, "Hey, the American people don't actually believe you're the enemy,
We
and
don't. I
here,
mean, we
let's
don't.
bridge the
And
gap."
and I and
Yeah.
I and I have faith that the people of these other countries know that the general population of the United States do not want to be adversaries. We
Yeah.
want peace. Um,
Yes.
but when you're talking about forming any type of a government at all, now at this point, I don't trust any of them. There's always going to be corruption. There's always going to be corruption.
I mean, yeah, corruption is kind of a
You can't
given.
avoid it, whether you're communist or whatever. You can't
Yeah. I
avoid
mean,
corruption.
it really depends on leadership. For example, China has been doing anti-corruption campaigns for the last couple decades, and they literally, if a billionaire owner of a company is exploiting the masses, what they do in China is they take that billionaire, not millionaires, but billionaires, and they will execute them,
Well, okay.
which is what we should be doing. Like, we should be doing that. I
Well,
mean, everyone talks the talk, and everybody loves the French Revolution when they cut off the heads of their rich people that were exploiting them all. But when China does it, it's bad.
well. Okay, but what's stopping the government from villainizing uh, a corporation um, un without reason? Like, what is stopping the government? Like, Kamala Harris said she would take individual patents away, steal them, or just take them away from companies and start using them themselves as a government. That she's all for grabbing people's patents, taking them away, and using them. I mean, that's a government interfering. That's government taking over.
Well, okay, there's a few different ways to look at that because in China they share patents across companies, and that's what's led to their scientific progress at such a high rate, is because it's like public domain patents and people can improve upon these designs
So if somebody develops a
at a really
patent,
rapid
does the
pace.
government automatically get their patent that they've
I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know that there is a lot of patent sharing within China, and that's why their society was able to progress so quickly. And I think that the United States is scared of China's progression, and they're trying to catch up. And so, probably Kamala saying that is attempting to somehow technologically catch up to China, especially when it comes to chip production, manufacturing, and also like weapons manufacturing technologies and whatnot. And also just the general way their cities are run are really technologically advanced compared to our cities here, which is like shitholes. So the
don't
only
they
way to
have
do that is
surveillance
for
cameras everywhere? Surveillance cameras
yeah, we do
everywhere.
too. We do too. We have that
But
too as it is.
can't don't they have control over your bank account? They can just cut you right off if you're
They
not
do that
socially
here.
acceptable. If they don't like what you've done or said, they can cut off your finances.
Yeah, but they can do that here too. And they do. And
I mean, they
we have
monitor
credit
your
scores.
every move in China. They literally
They
like
Mom, they do that to us as well.
not in the same way. I don't
Yes,
think
they
it's in
do.
the same way.
They're in our computers right now.
What?
They're in they're in our houses. They're in your smart TVs. They're in your car. Like they're monitoring us for everything. And I mean that's a whole other debate to be had. There's parts of Chinese society that I don't agree with, for sure. I'm not going to never disagree on a Chinese policy just on the basis of being pro China. There's stuff that I don't like the one child policy was a disaster. I'll say that all day long. And as far as the surveillance stuff, I'm also super apprehensive of that. But I will say that their cities are, I'll give them credit where credit is due. Their cities are way better run.
Yeah.
Their society is much healthier. They have a longer, I mean, they live longer than we do at this point, which is new. Our our life expectancy is going down, and theirs is just going up, up, up. When you go to a public park in China, all the elderly people are out there dancing and doing tai chi. We don't have that. Everyone's sick here. So I mean, and even the way they handled COVID was completely different than we did here, and they actually handled it much, much better. And the vaccine was not mandatory over there,
Well,
and
a
it
lot
wasn't
of
an
that,
RNA vaccine.
a lot of the response to COVID was politically motivated. Remember, there was an election happening, and it scared a lot of people away from voting in person, and they
Hmm.
purposely did this to manipulate manipulate the votes.
Right. Well, and China and Russia put out a joint statement in 2022 after the special military operation was launched, declaring their unity as countries, which is extremely significant. But in their statement, I read the whole thing. I highly recommend people actually read these statements given out by these governments. But they accuse the United States of bio warfare and said that they needed to stop immediately. From China's perspective and Russia's perspective, I'm pretty certain that without saying it, they were claiming that COVID was a bioweapon that was placed in China in order to to disrupt their government and decimate their people. That's what they not explicitly were saying in the statement. And it's true, they in the way they handled it in China was as if it was a bioweapon. And what they did was shut down localities temporarily to control it and then open back up. Whereas here it was just a complete mess and everything was shut down for
Well,
like
people
two.
were still flying out of China, though, even when China knew that there was a
Yeah, but
virus.
not from certain localities. I mean, they were shutting down hotspots for and temporary, and the government was bringing people food to their apartment complexes. We didn't have that. We don't have any kind of social cohesion here at all. So we were all just fucked. And I
Well,
think that the United States thought that China wouldn't be able to handle it as well as they did, and it didn't affect. I think it kind of backfired on the United States what they were trying to do. I think it completely backfired on us
well, I
because
mean, think
the
about
part
it. I do believe it came from the lab in China,
that
um,
was being run by the United
that
States.
was being paid for by the United States
Yes.
and probably other countries too, for that
And
matter,
then they blame China because it's
because it's
convenient.
located in China. I don't think any of
Yeah,
that. I don't think that gain of function research should be done at all.
I don't think so either. I agree. Yeah, but it's just anyway, I don't know. We went on a huge tangent. But yeah, there are parts of Chinese society that I agree are debatable for sure, but I'll also give them credit where credit is due is that
Yeah,
their
I mean, their
society is doing a lot
infrastructure is
better.
amazing.
Yeah, they have the high-speed trains. We need that. Like why do we
You
not have
can you
high-speed
can walk
trains?
around in public without being afraid of getting jumped.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that would be great.
But
I
that's
would
never
love
going to
to feel that
happen,
way.
especially with open borders.
They don't have school shootings.
Our border is wide open.
Yeah, China's border is not.
We are being attacked. Literally, we're being invaded. It's a literal invasion and it's intentional.
I mean, it's just I don't really know what the I mean, well, okay, I do know what the overlords want is they want chaos and they want division and they want us fighting each other for scraps and they want us stupid and they want us sick because that's the only way we're not going to be able to overthrow them.
Right. Well, we've all been in like a dream state, uh, not aware, like just living in a bubble of fiction
Well, except
up until
for
recently. We
except for the communists because there was a huge communist movement in the early 1900s in the United States that got and they were aware and trying to garner attention of what was going on internationally during the First World War and the Second World War and they were trying to get us rights as workers and the government the imperialist government and their weapons manufacturers engineered the McCarthy era to completely crush it. And then they distorted what communism was in the universities and whatnot and created the hippies. They created the hippies with the drugs. And like,
so that
in,
was my like I'm the last year of the baby boomer generation. And the
yeah,
baby boomer whatever time frame is a lot bigger than most
generations.
generational categories, I guess you would say. And so I don't know that I think I was really influenced a lot by the hippie culture.
Yeah. I mean,
I
you
mean,
listened to
everything
Enya when I
was.
was growing up.
What's that?
You were really big into Enya when I was a kid.
Oh,
Which I this is that's why I didn't understand why you were pro George W. Bush and like believing all the 9/11 stuff because to me those are like diametrically that doesn't make sense. The Enya combined with the war on terror mental like that to me I was like wait my mom supports this because that's not the person she is.
I'm
It didn't make
bipolar.
sense. Multiple personalities.
No, I mean, there just wasn't much thought given to all of that on my part as far as political happenings. And when you were small children, it was like, and I think this happens where you might spend 15 years raising your children and you just are in survival mode, man.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about politics. You're just trying to make it through the day. And that's how
Yeah.
they want us to be. That's how it's designed.
Yeah.
It
And so growing up with that 1960s summer of love 1970s influence in your life,
mm-hmm.
it was just in the air. It was on TV. All the music, I mean, great music came out of that
Peace,
era.
love, happiness. Yes.
Right. Did you have any idea that that was also a government? I mean, of
No.
course
Oh,
you
no,
didn't
no,
have
no, no.
any
No.
conception that that was a government
No, no,
psyop.
not at all. Mm-mm, no. No. I thought
Right.
that was completely organic. Excuse the pun, but I really
The
did.
drugs.
I thought it was completely organic, and I thought that I empathized with people who are sensitive, anti-government. I would definitely, if it were as simple as John Lennon's Imagine, I would love that. I would love
Yeah.
it. That would be so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I
Anyway,
mean, you grew up in the Midwest, but you had family who was more towards California who got really spun out on drugs during that era, right?
yeah.
Like it affected people that you knew and loved. And I think so. What happened was, I'm really passionate about this. I want to calm down. Actual communists who were trying to fight the deep state, the OSS and the CIA, back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they were crushed. Their materialist, very pragmatic, very patriotic view of the world that they were trying to enlighten people with got crushed, and the CIA created these spun out, drugged out, turn on, tune in, drop out hippies to replace them in universities. They were bringing LSD and spreading it throughout the universities.
They're creating chaos.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah, Operation Chaos is what it was called.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
yes. MK Ultra with the drugs and Operation Chaos with creating entities like, I don't know if you know, the Symbionese Liberation Army, the Weather Underground, Jonestown. That was all CIA, communist organizations that were terrorist organizations to crush any kind of real idea of what communism was meant to be in the eyes of the American public. They created these crazy fucking hippies, which the leftists today are just the descendants of these schizophrenic drug
Yes.
addicts.
Yes, and I'm so ashamed because most of them are boomers, but they're older boomers. They're the older boomers. They're not I don't know. I feel sorry for my generation, or I feel sorry for the boomers because they live their whole lives in this idyllic fake world, which was just really great and wonderful. We we didn't have a lot of noise happening like with media and technology, and we just lived for what we saw and what was around us, and we lived in the moment, and we were able to do that, and it was wonderful. And then in our old age, all of a sudden it's like, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? And talk about cognitive dissonance. So there are a lot of us who have awakened and are pissed.
Yeah.
We're angry.
Well, I'm really glad that you are one of the people that has awakened, because now when I talk to you about these things that I try to talk to you about for years, you're actually perceptive, because in the past it would be like I would criticize school, like the school system or something, and you would take
Yeah,
it really personally, and I was like, no, no, no,
I
no, no, this
would
has nothing to do with you.
I
I was
worked
like, this
really
is not
really hard
you.
to make sure that I chose a school that you went to, even like down to the teacher, practically speaking. And I I did take that personally. I can remember one instance in particular, but I mean, you were fussing about that we had to say Pledge of Allegiance, that you had to say Pledge of Allegiance in school, and saying that was a horrible thing. And I don't think that's so horrible. And same with you. I mean, you've come around to agree with me that there are only two genders, right? And that everybody, all lives matter. That, like, not just Black Lives Matter, all lives matter is not a racist thing to say. It's not. It is not. It is not a racist thing.
It's really not. It's
It's
really not. It's
not.
fine.
It's the truth. It's truth. Um, so
I think even most people who supported BLM now see how demented and exploitive that whole movement and organization was.
it totally was. And remember
It's
how
just
many people were hurt and harmed and physically harmed, and how many businesses were destroyed from that whole thing.
hmm
From
yeah.
that was a big lie. Whole
I mean, yeah,
George Floyd
police
thing.
brutality is real, but the whole way, I mean, it was definitely orchestrated by the feds for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I support the police. We need order. We need order in our communities. Um, I don't know how else to do it. If anybody can think of a better idea, and no, a bunch of social workers running around is not going to help. Okay, that's just a whole nother government job.
Well, so you support the police like in that we need laws and we need people who enforce those laws, but you're also not for the prison industrial complex
No,
or private prisons. I'm assuming that you're not for private prisons either. For
no,
profit prisons.
no, I am not for that at all.
Yeah.
And I think that we can all see now. I mean, a lot of people have seen the weaponization of our justice system is crazy. And now people who didn't really understand on a micro level, it's been happening forever to people, you
Oh
know.
yeah. They can plant anything. I mean, they plant drugs on people. They
Well, they can
plant
create
evidence on
any
people all the
outcome they
time.
want to keep somebody in prison. They can make
Oh
up,
yeah.
they can make stuff up. They have quotas, you know, that the feds have a quota for arrests, number of arrests of
hmm
J6, and they're not finished yet. They're still arresting people for January 6th because they have a quota. This is the first time.
Most police in general have quotas that they
But
have
the
to meet.
FBI or whoever, the DOJ, has a quota for how many arrests they want
Right.
from J6. Now it's a couple thousand more that they want to make. And that's like 4 years later. Are you kidding me?
Well, you know what they did with BLM protests and then the January 6th thing that happened right after was they utilized these protests to then pretty much almost every single state after 2020 put forth bill proposals to crack down on any type of protesting at all. So those two things were completely utilized by the state to restrict our rights as citizens to be able to protest at all. I mean, in
Oh,
Florida, you're
but
basically not allowed to protest at all
but
in
what
Florida.
about all the protesters that came, the Palestinian people protesting, and they came through the Capitol? That was just like a month ago. That was fine. Nobody got arrested for that.
Were they violent?
I don't know, but you're not supposed to
I don't think so.
protest, right?
I don't think there was like rioting happening. Whereas, I mean,
There's a
with the
difference
BLM
between
stuff,
protesting and rioting, though,
right, I know, but with the BLM stuff and the January 6th, that turned into like property was destroyed, right?
by
So,
the
but
feds,
anyway, what I'm saying, yeah, by the literally by the feds.
literally by
What I'm
feds. And
saying
then they
is,
threw people in the gulag They're still there. A lot of them were put in solitary confinement for being rowdy. Give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's so, and the liberals are still crying about January 6th to this day. They won't shut the hell up
It's like, get a
about it.
helmet,
It's
grow a
crazy.
pair.
But I think we both agree that the criminal justice system needs severe reform.
I would say yes.
Severe reform, like severe
There's
reform.
always going to be corruption, though. Always.
I mean, of course, I mean that's a given because we're humans. But I mean, it really is an industry. It's a
It's just
prison
out of
industry.
control. It's totally
It's an
out of
industry.
control. And it's such a racket.
Yeah, it's an
On a
industry.
smaller level, um, I was driving through a town in northern Florida. It was just this tiny little town. And the only thing in this tiny little town, well, only things were the jail, the police station, a bank, a bail bondsman, and an attorney or a couple different attorneys. And
Oh
they just
God.
pass them around and around and around. So the cop arrests a person who now needs an attorney, and the bail bondsman, and the bank, and they're all like, it's all just a well oiled machine.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, in small
That's
town
all that was
America
there
too.
was like a bail bondsman, a jail, attorney's offices, the courthouse.
Oh
It
my
was
God,
crazy. That was it. I was like, wow, okay.
that's messed up. Well, okay, so we should wrap up because we're already up to an hour, and I have to put my baby for a nap. But well, I guess one last thing I want to ask you is, who do you think is in control of all of this?
Um,
Who do you think we need to overthrow realistically?
I think we need to overthrow the WEF.
That'd be good.
Yeah, because I think that they are very manipulative all around the world, and I think that they don't really care about the populace. I don't think they care about people at all, and I don't believe that there should be that huge of an uh, entity that is trying to control the entire population of the world.
Hmm.
I mean, we talk about local government all the time. That's way, 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 way past local government. That's not, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't trust them. Um, I would love to just eliminate those. I have often thought about bombing their meetings. No, really. I mean, come on. Oops. Now we're going to be in
In a
trouble.
video game. In a
Oops.
video
Yeah, in a
game.
video game. Oops. No, I mean when they have their big meetings, why doesn't somebody just take care of the situation right then and there?
I
Why?
wonder that myself. I wonder that myself. Also, I mean, okay, in my opinion, I think we need to overthrow the banks and the
Say it
Federal
again.
Reserve. I think we need to overthrow the banks and the
Oh yeah.
Federal
Oh,
Reserve.
the Federal Reserve. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So in order to do that, we got to get the military on our side.
Which
So,
which I think that there is a huge part of the military that is, and that the higher ups in the military are the big problem because I kind of feel like there's a lot bubbling underneath that we're not fully aware of.
oh yeah, definitely.
And I
So
really
share
do
the
think that,
podcast with anybody you know who's in the military because we need them on our side.
well, I think there are a lot of them on our side.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing that I would like to do is, you know how there's a big fence around the Capitol? I think we should put electricity around that fence and barbed wire facing in, and just not, and then just prevent them all from leaving. Okay. And
Well, we
just
have to do something with the helipad.
hold them captive,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and then just move the capital to like Mar-a-Lago or something.
Dude, when January 6th was happening, I was cracking up. Because, I mean, this is everybody's fantasy, isn't it? Everyone's fantasy to be able to go in there and just like
Yes.
kind of steal some stuff and scare them a little bit. Isn't that everyone's
Yes.
fantasy? And like, and the leftists and
That's
the
what being an
anarchists,
American is about.
yeah, rebellion.
Yes.
And the leftists talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and they never fucking would ever dare to do anything like that. So
No.
I thought that was so. I was cracking up, even though I know that it was the FBI that was like creating the whole ordeal and letting them in and opening the doors and just ushering them about and giving
Yeah, but
them like a
you've got like
tour.
70-year-old women going in there and saying, "This is bullshit." I mean, we're
Yeah.
angry. We're angry.
Yeah, I totally agree with those people. And I just thought it was so funny that all these anarchists are like all talk, 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 talk. But they don't,
No, they're
they would
just
never dare.
virtue signaling useful idiots who all they
They
do is
really,
they're still living a fake world. They're still
yeah,
living in just virtue signaling. Everything is
right,
virtual. It's
right.
it's fake. And
It's totally
all
fake.
it is words for them.
And
They
they're like
just
scared of guns. I mean, how are you going to do anything if you're scared of guns?
I'm scared of guns. I mean, I
Okay.
have one, but I'm afraid to use it. I'm afraid to take it with me because I feel like somebody's going to wrestle it away from me.
I mean, that's totally fair, but I mean, I just don't think that they would ever breach the Capitol at all. I think they would probably stop at the entrance. We've never seen them try to do anything like that, at least.
They'll
So
scream and holler and act insane, but they won't ever do
that's true.
anything about it.
They'll do like an interpretive dance or something.
Yeah. Or they're going to make autonomous zones.
Oh yeah, with like a garden that never grows
Yeah, we're going
anything
to
in
have a
it.
garden. We're going to grow we're going to grow vegetables on cement. Yes.
Oh, what a mess. Okay,
And
so
we'd like some gluten-free pizza, please.
yeah, my tummy hurts if it's not gluten free. I get tummy ache and I can't do anything. um, well, this has been great. I think that I mean I'm glad I'm really glad that you came on, even though it's scary to talk in front of people. But I kind of wanted to prove to people that there's a lot of common ground amongst anti-imperialists, both on the left and the right, and that we need to stop with the division and get a hold of reality. And with that being said, I think a lot of people on the right need to also realize how they're being duped with the China nonsense, and they're halfway there by
Yes,
supporting Russia.
we
You
are
know,
halfway
they're
there.
so close. Like people are so close to
Yes.
seeing that the propaganda goes even wider than the
Yeah.
spectrum than what they think it does,
Yes.
and that the only way we can actually have any kind of tangible power as civilians, as the working class in our country, and take our country for ourselves as a working class is to unite. And there's no way that we can do that without each other.
I have faith and hope, and I agree, and I am very thankful that you and I have come around to meet and so many on so many levels. Um, and I think that there are good things ahead. We have to remember also that we can't, I think it's really important for people to know that you can't legislate a good heart. You can't legislate goodness. No matter how many laws are on the books, it won't change whether a person is good or bad. And the truth will set us free. And it's going to take a lot more than government for this world to turn around. And it's turning around.
Yeah,
It
yeah, we
is. I
need
think
to take back
I'm
the
looking forward to uh, peace and prosperity. I think it's entirely attainable, and a lot of it is attitude. Um, and frankly, the United States just needs to stay out of everybody's business. And
yeah,
you know, you have to clean up your own act before you can give other people advice. And we are out of control as a country, out of control. We're a mess, total mess. So who are we to tell other countries what to do? We can't
absolutely.
do it. We have to get our act together over here. You know,
I
first
couldn't
things
agree
first.
more. I
We have
couldn't
to be
agree more.
sovereign. We have to have borders. Um, we have to stop getting distracted with stupid tranny BS and stuff like that. I mean, it's just all a distraction. We all know the truth. We all know the truth. Why are we even discussing these things? Um, what's important is our safety. We need to be safe first and foremost. And then our health. We need clean water, clean air, clean food
Hmm.
that's accessible. The government should not tell us what we can grow in our yards and how many
Right,
chickens we can have.
right.
Um, we should not, I don't agree with allowing foreign countries to purchase our farmland. I don't agree with that at all. We need to preserve our farmland and take care of the farmers. Um,
Yep. Yeah, farmer
and
suicide is like extremely high because none of them can make a living anymore because of the monopolization of farming
yeah, yep.
and big agriculture.
It's, it's really, it's, I don't even know what the word is. It's like medieval, inhumane tactics. And
Yeah,
then,
well, and you know who wants illegal migration is these big agricultural farms who are hiring them for their
they're like big
cheap labor because they can
conglomerate.
be
They're
slaves.
big conglomerate farms. They're not,
Yeah, they're using these people as slaves essentially because they have no rights. They're being paid so little. They're under illegal working conditions out in the hot sun for whoever
and
knows
they
how
have
many hours
no
a day.
recourse because they have no recourse. Yeah,
Right,
because
no
they're in the
legal
shadows.
recourse.
And that's
They're just pawns.
so
They're
allowing
just
all these
pawns.
people in is not helping them. You're harming them. I mean, they're living a horrible, um, they're forced into living a really not ideal life. So what they're coming here for and what they're getting are two different things.
Right. And a lot of them are coming here because the US destabilized their country to exploit it. Nobody wants to leave their home country.
Nobody
Nobody
wants
really
to leave
wants to
their
leave
home
their
country.
family. Nobody wants to leave their family, and the US is the major reason why all of these countries are impoverished and unstable.
Yeah, and then so we create the condition and then we complain about it.
Yeah, it's so fucked. And then they blame all the wrong people. Well, they never bring up the farmers that are employing people as slaves, essentially. They never bring up that.
Well, that's why locally we can't be a sanctuary country. We need to have laws. We need to not allow people to take advantage of other people like that. Like you're saying, the farming industry. So
Yeah.
locally, that needs to be weeded out, and the people need to be apprehended on a local level because otherwise, you're not going to find them. You can,
Well,
I
they're
can.
also trafficking so many people, like so many children and women are being trafficked into the United States and like literally sex trafficked and people, I mean that's a major concern of mine is the amount of children that are missing,
How
just
many
just
children are
missing.
missing? Over 100,000 at this point. Uh,
Just disappeared.
yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm against that. I'm against
Well, and
that primarily.
who is facilitating this? The government.
Yeah,
And
well,
our three
they
letter
are
agencies, they're all
the
part of it.
number one drug traffickers, the number one weapons
Human,
traffickers, the number one human
human
traffickers,
traffickers, for
number
real.
one in everything. And then they blame everybody else, and it's just, and
Right.
then
It's
we're
not like
all
they're going
fighting
to
each
arrest.
other on who's to blame, and it's like it's obvious who's to fucking blame.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. And it shouldn't be this difficult. And so I do have hope that, people can't help but wake up now. And if we
Yeah.
all stop paying our taxes, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? It's illegal for them to be collecting taxes from us. That's not, I never agreed to that. That I don't have a deal with you people. No.
Yeah.
We should all
I
just
mean, if we
stop.
could all coordinate that, that would be really, really
We should
cool.
just stop.
That would be nice.
And a lot of people have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why am I giving money to somebody who's going to take that money and hurt me with it?
It's crazy. None of it is going
All right,
towards
everybody, let's all stop paying taxes.
our our own infrastructure that's helping us. Like none of it's going back
I
to
don't
us
mind
now.
paying my local taxes as much. It's the federal taxes I don't want to pay.
What a mess. Well, I'm glad you're not nihilistic about it. That's step number one is having hope that things are possible to get better and
Well,
uh,
that is
talking
another
about
thing. I
it.
mean, you'll find a lot of MAGA people are Christians. Not necessarily though. But that's where our belief in sovereignty comes in, and that's where our belief that the only uh, ruler of us is God, not the government. The government is not God. Two separate
Hmm.
things. And if we focus on the government instead of focusing on God, then we're just going to keep getting more crap.
Yeah. I think that Christians and communists have actual communists have a lot in common as far as what we believe and how society should be run, as far as sharing everything and making sure nobody goes without
Taking
and
care of
making
your
sure that
brothers and your
no one is in debt,
sisters,
like being against debtors.
taking care of your
That's
family and your friends and your neighbors.
right. And having morals, like strong moral code in a society is a very communist thing and historically speaking was very important
Yeah, and
in
but you
communist
can't
societies.
legislate morals, you just can't. Those are,
Well, you can make legislations that guide a society.
yes,
You can, right? Like banning porn, for example, would be like really cool if we could do that.
that's true. That would be good.
Yeah. And I mean, abortion laws and I mean, there's all sorts of laws that do guide the moral structure of society. I think I'm in agreement of that. Laws against pedophiles, for example.
Right. Yeah, I think we have plenty of laws. I don't think we need any more laws, because we can't even enforce the laws that we have now.
Well, we're almost it's extremely nitpicky.
Yeah,
Uh
it's like micromanaging.
yeah, we're all micromanaged at an extreme level. I mean, so in New York, one of my friends was telling me that the laundromat he goes to in New York City, the woman who owns the place is from China, and she's always talking to him about how horrible the city management is because they'll just come in and do an inspection and give her fines for like random stuff. And the latest one was that one of her machines, one of the washing machines was out of order and she had an out of order sign, like a handwritten sign on the machine, and they fined her a couple $100 because the letters on the sign weren't 2 inches tall.
Yeah, that's just a money making BS. That's just, and
It's
that
crazy.
person going around nitpicking, that person, they're a government employee, okay? And they're nitpicking, and then the fee that they're charging is going to pay their own salary. So if we just eliminate that person, we won't have any more fees because we won't need to pay them their salary. It's too
Oh, it's
much.
crazy
If
micromanaged. Just
people
so
don't
messed
like the
up.
business, then people don't have to go to the business. And it's their business. They can run it how they want.
Yeah, and for a small business owner who these people who own these businesses, they don't get vacations. They're working every
They
single
don't
day in
get
that shop.
pensions.
They usually don't have employees that aren't their family members
No, and
in New
they're
York
left there
City.
with their asses hanging out, you know,
What do you mean?
risking everything.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
their worst enemy is the government.
And $200 fine can be significant to them because they're not really laundromats don't really make that much money when the
No,
cost of to rent the space in New York City is already so high.
not to
And like
mention the
the
electricity.
yeah, the cost of operations. I mean, these people are not rich. They're immigrants who are barely scraping by, and then the government comes in and gives them a fine because their letters aren't big enough.
Yeah. The
Okay.
government is working against us all. Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. Against families.
Yeah.
We need to be rewarding people for having children
Yeah, I
and
agree.
getting married and having children. Um, that needs to be encouraged and rewarded. But the way
That's why they
things are
killed
right
Gaddafi.
now, it's
That's why they
what's that?
killed him. They killed Gaddafi partially because, I mean, his society was the most thriving country in all of Africa, and he was giving awards to new couples like a loan that they didn't have to pay back of like I don't know, like $30,000 to buy their own house.
Mm-hmm.
Every single couple. Once you're married, you just automatically get that. They were the highest educated country in all of Africa, and the United States saw what he was doing, and they're like, "Oh, actually, you might be giving other countries in Africa ideas of how to run their society, and we can't have that. So you got to be slaughtered, and then your murder has to be published on every single American front page newspaper at the grocery store. So make an example of you. They made an example of him, just like any other politician who tries to uplift Africa gets slaughtered.
Who was the president of some small country who tested did COVID testing on like a
The
papaya
fruit,
or a mango,
yeah.
and
Let me look up his name.
he created a cocktail like a tonic for people for COVID, and it was helping them, and it was helping them get through COVID very quickly and easily. Well, he got killed.
Yeah,
He was murdered. W-
Magufuli, the president of Tanzania.
Yeah, the president of Tanzania, he was
Hmm.
speaking truth and he mysteriously died
Yeah, he went missing, and then they announced after a while of him being just like missing, they're like, oh, he died.
because they couldn't have him speaking truth.
Yeah, this is what they do to every African leader who tries to stand up to the
Well,
empire.
and they
It's
do it to
crazy.
scientists who are blowing the whistle. For
Yeah,
example, people in pharmaceutical companies blowing the whistle, they mysteriously die all the
yep.
time.
The Boeing whistleblowers that
People
are all
falling out
dying.
of high rise windows.
Hmm.
Yeah, the airplane that crashes. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we could talk for probably 3 more hours because
I know, I feel like there were some more questions that we kind of didn't get to, but
that's okay. That's okay. I think it was a great talk. Is there any? Do you have any final message to our listeners?
hmm, not really. I just want everybody to look on the bright side of things and realize that more and more people, more and more of us are waking up, and there are more of us than there are of them. And that if
Hmm.
we do agree on so much more than we disagree on. Um, and now is the time. Now is the time for us to come together, and we can do it. I mean, it's if we can just I want to dismantle almost everything in our government and start over as far as
Yeah.
the federal government.
I
The
agree.
Department of Education, the FBI, the CIA, all of it
Yep.
unnecessary. And then we wouldn't have all these taxes. We'd be able to afford living life the way God intended us to.
Hmm.
This isn't supposed to be normal. Waking up and going to work 5 days a week and being on this treadmill of survival is not what God intended. Now, a lot of it
Hmm.
is self imposed materialism, right? But this is not how our lives are supposed to be. And if we can get back to the simpler truth of all the abundance that we do have here and be grateful for the things that we do have, we are still very blessed as a nation. Um, but we can't suck our thumbs like infants in our own little world, pretending that everything's okay. Because it's not. And we have to fix it.
Right. Right.
We have to
Yeah, I
fix
think
it.
so many people agree. So many people agree, like
And it's going to take more than an
across partisan
election.
lines.
It's going to take a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more than an election.
voting's not going to get us where we want to be.
No,
I'm
I
telling you
mean,
that
this
right
is a
now.
spiritual battle more so than anything.
I mean, I personally believe that too.
I think it's
So
good versus evil, and more of us are good. And if we can shine our light to everybody, then the darkness will dissipate.
yeah, well, we can't let our personal demons, being, I mean, our fears, our anxieties, or our anger, blind us, and we really need to be able to unite with one another. So I think this was a great talk and could have been really illuminating for some people that maybe don't have MAGA boomers in their life and don't get to talk to them or hear from them directly very often, because there's much more common ground than disagreements between us. I mean,
Well,
obviously.
and we are all evolving no matter what age we are. We're all evolving still as individuals. And I think it's important, I talk about not respecting liberals and not having respect for certain old friends of mine. I just don't want to have anything to do with them. But I have to hold a space for them ultimately, and just keep the faith that maybe they will come to the light and wake
Hmm.
up, and realize that their emotions and what things appear to be are not
Hmm.
truth. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And for me, I hope that for both sides, both the self-proclaimed liberals and Republicans, can really see how they're being manipulated, because a lot of people are so close to getting it, like so close to getting it,
well,
and we have to remain open to them.
I would never consider my daughter who was once an anarchist. I would never consider her to have such conservative values, but I'm glad that you do, as far as family and um, treating others the way you would like to be treated. Like, you're respectful of people, you have a love for learning, and um, I don't know. I I'm glad that you do have those conservative values ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want family structure to be destroyed. I don't want our society to be in shambles. Like there, I mean that's what conservative means to me, is some level of conservation of normalcy, conservation of what little we still have. It's very little, you know. But I'm all I'm saying is that the Republican Party is not going to be the vehicle for preserving what we
No,
deserve.
no, I mean, like, I don't even want to call myself Republican. I don't use that
Yeah,
word. I identify as a conservative,
yeah,
and I, and not even, I don't even want to say libertarian, but I do want to say conservative independent.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah,
I think that's good. That gives you, autonomy to believe what you want to believe. You're not like
absolutely.
you're not in a cultish camp.
Well, because
You
I
know.
don't know. I mean, that's the first thing I will tell you is I really don't know. There's a lot of information that I don't know if it's true or not. And so there are certain things I know to be true. And those are things that are unchangeable, you know.
Hmm.
But all this other stuff, I don't know what's true and what's not true. So, um,
And practically speaking, you are very moderate at the same time. Like
I
a lot of your
am.
politics are very moderate, very level-headed. It's in my opinion very level-headed, moderate political positions. You're not an extremist in any way besides wanting to blow stuff up in a video game. But I can agree to that. We have to have level heads in what our positions are, not
Yeah, we
just up
do.
there in
And
our
I think
emotions.
generationally, we need to get it together because there's a lot of us versus them going on. The thing is, we raised you. So we're partly to blame or we're partly to credit, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have the parents that I have. I think I got pretty lucky.
I think you did too. We did too, though. But I mean, I don't think you felt that way maybe 10 years ago.
Not in your neocon era. Not really. No. But hey,
No.
now my liberal little brother is the neocon, so
Oh, Lord.
leave the door open to him.
So, yes, we have the door wide open
Yeah.
to him. Because, I
It's
mean,
crazy.
he's your family. You've got to love him.
Yeah.
And
Take it or leave it.
he's a smart person.
Yeah. And family's tough. That's also okay. That's also why I wanted to do this episode is to just inspire people to not shut out their family members due to political differences. And we're all on our path to
Enlightenment.
hopefully on your path to growth. I wouldn't say enlightenment. I wouldn't go as far as say enlightenment, but hopefully, like, we can develop as things are revealed. Because that's the only way I've developed politically is when I actually looked into history that was hidden from me my entire life, and the truth began to reveal itself, and things really clicked into place. And when things click into place, it's like your whole life gets turned upside down, and your whole worldview gets reshaped, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are experiencing that simultaneously together, and that's what the podcast is for, is to just let people have an outlet where they don't feel like they're alone in their thoughts, and maybe this can be a cathartic outlet not only for me but for the listeners too. So I'm really grateful that you came on today to talk to me, Mama.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Great
honey.
episode. I hope
Thank you. Just
everybody
like
listening.
everybody needs to give us boomers some grace because
Yeah.
you talk about having like a midlife crisis at age 30 and or whatever when you realize things aren't what they appear to be and how much is just a big deception. You're just going down all these rabbit holes. Well, we didn't have rabbit holes to go down when we didn't have the internet. So,
Right.
um
It was pretty fringe back then to be into the
imagine
whole like,
living twice as long and experiencing what has appeared to us now.
yeah,
Like, that's a
yep,
huge thing. So
yep. The cognitive dissonance is strong.
it's huge and it makes us very angry. It's making
Yeah,
us very angry. And
yeah,
we are social beings. We're used to like gathering together and talking about everything, but now we're on Facebook doing the same thing that we used to do in person. just emoting and
Yeah,
talking
not
to each
good.
other. And
Not
like,
good.
we're angry. We're angry. Like, it's like our minds have been just completely blown because we honestly did not have all of these alternate forms of information. We just didn't.
Nope.
So
Yeah. But the thing is, when I talk to my neighbors, when I talk to people, like when I randomly talk to people out in the world, and I can approach them with these basic tenets of how we're all being abused by our government, everyone agrees.
everyone agrees. Who still thinks that the government's not going to hurt it? Who still thinks that the government has your interest in mind? Who? Who?
I mean, there are some people, but they're lost. They're
Are they just
lost. Just
beyond
lost.
help? I think they're beyond help.
I think they're in denial.
Or they're just lazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're lazy
Yeah.
thinkers. They don't want to think.
I think a lot of people don't want to admit, like for example, when I talk about real politics stuff to strangers, a lot of them don't want to have anything to do with it because it freaks them out, and it just freaks them out, and they don't want to go there. They'd rather remain safe and in their
That's
little thought
like
bubble.
I was out the other day, and this couple stopped to talk to me and my two girlfriends, and they were lovely people. We were just having a basic conversation about different, like the drinks and the appetizers and the restaurant across the way and blah blah blah. And then for some reason my friend asked them who they're voting for.
What the hell?
And the guy goes, "Well, I'm not voting for a felon."
Oh,
And I was like, wow. I I was just like, wow. Um, Somebody really got to him because that's just like such a talking point. I'm not voting for a felon. It's like, okay, well, do you not think that there are a lot of people out there with the label of felon who are very nice and innocent, actually, who are innocent people, but they have the label felon?
don't bring that up to them. Don't. The cognitive dissonance will break their brains.
I just couldn't believe it. And so we had a few
Uh,
words, and it turned out to be
oh,
not very pleasant. But then he started to
oh.
walk away and he goes, oh, this was it. She goes, well, he goes, well, I'm a Catholic, but I don't go to church and blah, blah, blah. And then my friend's like, well, I guess you're not Catholic then. And you can't be Catholic if you vote for abortion. Anyway, so then he's like, they were walking away and he's like, God bless. Well, I'm like, oh, God bless to you too. And he's like, well, God bless. And I'm like, God bless. I was
God
just
bless
like,
you.
I was gonna, oh, God bless him.
Oh
I
my
know you're gonna
god.
cut this part out, so I'm just telling you. I was
You
out.
guys are such. You and your friends are punks. You guys
I
are
was just.
punks.
Oh my God, we used to go around. You know the white rose. I used to make those white rose stickers and go around town and stick the white rose stickers all over. Have you ever heard of the white rose?
No.
Oh, you should look it up.
I know you do. You like to do petty vandalism. If everybody
Oh yeah.
listening, this is where I get it from. This is where I get it from. If you want to know why I'm the way I am, it's because of my parents.
Yeah, I stole some stupid COVID mask signs from the store. I just took them off and shoved them in my bag. And like,
You're a punk.
I have a printer that I can print white rose stickers that are awesome. And I would stick them around. Like, I have one and it says, uh, I'll pretend masks work if you pretend I'm wearing one.
Oh my god,
Yeah, stuff like that.
that's so funny.
I'm going to send you all the white rose stuff. You'll love it.
Okay, I would ask you what the white rose thing is, but I really have to go put my baby down for
I
a
know.
nap right
I'll
now.
send it to you.
Okay.
Okay,
All
love
right. I'm not
you.
cutting any of this out, by the way. All of this is going to
Uh
stay.
oh. Trouble. Uh oh. Trouble.
Okay. Thanks for coming on, Mom. And I hope everybody enjoyed
Oh
listening.
my gosh.
And I love you.
Love you.
All right, bye.